Hey everybody, here Brent from the Similitude of Prog. Hope everybody's well. Today we are going to review the new album from Whom Gods Destroy, an album called Insanium. I'm going to start off this review by saying sometimes things look better on paper than they actually are. Here we have a group of veteran musicians come up with the absolutely cringy Whom Gods Destroy and the cringier title of the album, Insanium. And like I said, this album looks a lot better on paper than it actually is. We've got Bumblefoot, Derek Sherinian, both are, very, very respected in the prog group. And the pedigree alone is mind blowing. And, to be completely honest, I'm not really familiar with the rest of the group. I've done a little bit of research, and from what I read, they're very prolific and very, thought highly of as well. So, what we have here basically, to me anyway, is Sons of Apollo 2.0. And if I'm being totally honest with you, their music left me cold, and I didn't really get too much out of those two albums. For the amount of talent in that band, much like this new band, Whom Gods Destroy, they just didn't seem to. They gelled very well together, don't get me wrong, but there was nothing that they offered that really moved me emotionally. And this by no means is bad music. It's wonderfully put together. I just find it perpetually dull and not really inspiring at all. And the biggest question I have is listening to this album, I have to wonder why time is going so bloody slow. This album, just for whatever reason, was a real dirge to get through. It took me probably, to be honest with you, 4 or 5 listens before stuff actually started sounding pleasant and something I might like. I found the music to be over prepared, over the top. It just didn't necessarily need to be so, in their eyes, maybe so perfect. I think if they had a little bit of a different take on it, maybe let it have a little bit of a dirty, grungy feeling and not so polished, this might have been a better album. And the biggest thing on this album that drives me nuts is it's like a big wank festival. Everybody has to noodle, and it's like musical masturbation. There's too much of it. Yeah, I know I'm being, pretty negative, but to be honest with you, when I listen to music, it has to be emotional. And this album to me is the farthest thing away from any emotion that strikes me. I find it very cold, very calculated. Just overall, it sounds very factory produced, almost like you were a part of a let's make a band TV show where you have, everybody come in and audition for the band. And it just, like I said, works on paper, musically, not so much. It just, in a bad way, it just lacks personality. And I think that's its biggest flaw. And that's what brings it down for me. And also please keep in mind that I don't mean to shit on this album. I know it's going to have lots of followers and lots of fans, and that's great. I mean, those guys deserve that because this is a very super groupish band. It doesn't do anything for me. What do I like about the album? Um, I find that the musicianship on this album is stellar. All these guys are masters at their own trade, and I think that's a benefit to them. And I think maybe in the future, if they go for maybe a different angle at songwriting, and this is just my opinion, guys, don't crucify me. Maybe they would have a different sound and be a little more complex. And after a few listens, I kind of had to question myself, what doesn't click with me and why? Which is probably to say that it's not the type of progressive metal that really appeals to me. It's kind of makes me feel the same way, like I said earlier, with Sons of Apollo. Those two albums are fine. I have them both in the collection and I go back to them, but they just don't emotionally move me. And I guess it's just an album that wasn't made for me, and I guess that's okay too. You can't like everything, but I hope in the future when we do get, volume 2 or the next album, they change things up together and maybe make something a little more progressive and a little more, I don't know how to say it, complex, maybe the best way to say it. But overall, like I said, it's not a bad album, and I know it will have legions and legions of fans, which is great because these guys deserve that. But as a final rating, I'm going to just have to give this an average rating. All right, guys, see you in the next video. Bye.